Everyone, and welcome to People's Church. Whether this is your first time at People's Church or you come every Sunday or anywhere in between, I welcome you. My name is Laura McClellan, and I'm from the Sunday Services Committee. People's Church is a member congregation of the Unitarian Universalist Association and part of a tradition of liberal religion. Here, our mission is to be a beloved community, embracing and serving our diverse world. This morning's reflection comes from longtime People's Church member Don Miller. Don has been a church member for about 25 years and has enjoyed serving in a variety of ways, most especially working with youth. He tries to get to the woods as often as possible with hiking and biking. He is very grateful for his 3 boys, Sam, Chris, and Ben. Our summer services are a bit different. After the reflection, we will be separated into small groups to discuss the questions for discussion before we come back together for the closing words. Welcome, everyone. And now for some announcements.
Hi, Pat Nelson. I just want to mention this week is the national meeting of all the Unitarian Universalists in the U.S. and called the General Assembly. And on next Sunday, it will be the church service, and this is quite a show. And since this is virtual and in person this year, anybody can watch us. Just go to uua.org to get directions. Or I was wondering if anybody is interested at all in coming after the service next week. It would be shown here at 12:30 our time, and we could gather in room 19 and have a little snack ahead of time. It's supposed to be a fantastic choir and gather from the whole United States, and it just might be fun to watch it together. So I see one nod. Anybody interested? If Christine's interested, I know a couple other people would come, so I'm one of the delegates this year. I don't know if there are other delegates. Let me know, and you can help organize if you'd like. So we'll plan on setting it up. We can use the big wall in there, which should be pretty impressive. So 12:30, and bring some finger foods so that we can, after our meeting here, we can gather there and then watch that. Thanks.
Tis a gift to be simple, 'tis a gift to be free, 'tis a gift to come down where we ought to be. And when we find ourselves in the place just right, 'twill be in the valley of love and delight, when true simplicity is gained. To bow and to bend we shan't be ashamed. To turn will be our delight, till by turning we come on high.
The words for this morning's chalice lighting were written by Don Skye Cooley. We light our chalice this morning, grateful for the love that we experience in this beloved community. May the flame light the way for all who seek such abundance. The time, the energy, the imagination, the vision, the creativity, the compassion, the love, and the financial support of the members and friends of this community that fuels our mission to nurture and sustain a welcoming, inclusive, and diverse liberal religious community that transforms lives and serves the world. Your support, the free and generous support of each and every member of this community, is what fuels this community and its mission. And without your support, the flame of justice, community, and love cannot burn brightly to warm ourselves and be a beacon in a world threatened by division and fear. The offering will now be received. Or it will if I can find the basket. Please join me in giving thanks for all that sustains us. The words may be found in the chat box or in your order of service. From the countless gifts we each have been given, gifts of life and love and sustenance, we bring these small portions to share in the works of love, which none of us can accomplish alone. Our first reading is from 4 Quartets by T.S. Eliot. If you came this way, taking any route, starting from anywhere, at any time or at any season, it would always be the same. You would have to put off sense and notion. You are not here to verify, instruct yourself, or inform curiosity, or carry report. You are here to kneel where prayer has been valid, and prayer is more than an order of words. The second reading is from The Great Silence by Ted Chiang. We Puerto Rican parrots have our own myths. They're simpler than human mythology, but I think humans would take pleasure from them. Alas, our myths are being lost as my species dies out. I doubt the humans will have deciphered our language before we're gone. So the extinction of my species doesn't just mean the loss of a group of birds. It's also the disappearance of our language, our rituals, our traditions. It's the silencing of our voice. Human activity has brought my kind to the brink of extinction, but I don't blame them for it. They didn't do it maliciously. They just weren't paying attention. And humans create such beautiful myths. What imaginations they have. Perhaps that's why their aspirations are so immense. Look at Arecibo. Any species that can build such a thing must have greatness within it. My species probably won't be here for much longer. It's likely that we'll die before our time and join the great silence. But before we go, we are sending a message to humanity. We just hope the telescope at Arecibo will enable them to hear it. The message is this: you be good. I love you.
Always messes up my hair. When Reverend Rachel and her husband Brian had a child together, little DeForest, there was a picture on Facebook of Brian holding DeForest chest, and that I took that picture and recalled a picture, a similar picture of me and my son Samuel when he was born. So I wrote this poem for Sam and for Brian Longberg, and since it's Father's Day, I thought I'd share it. Each day I rush to town as if there were fires to arrest, forgetting to breathe at times, so pulled to purposes of work and order. Even beauty can cloud my eyes, my mind racing with imagined feats of love and lust. And then you, the boy who lay on my breast all those years ago, look upon me with your soft eyes and crack me open like the first time you spread me across God with your tiny fingers, better than Michelangelo. You taught me poetry, the sweet burden of it rising and falling, a dance we shared. How I forget to pray with gratitude and smile from inside my heart. So light, so light.
Find a stillness, hold a stillness, let the stillness carry me. Find the silence, hold the silence, let the silence carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit given power, I will find true harmony. Seek the essence, hold the essence, let the essence carry me. Let me flower, help me flower, watch me flower, carry me. In the Spirit, by the Spirit, with the Spirit giving power, I will find true harmony.
This summer, we're exploring the themes of reweaving, reclaiming, recovering, or rebuilding. I will talk today about weaving two realities together, abundance and subtraction. The storyteller in the reading that Laura did, or one of the readings about the Great Silence, is a parrot and starts out talking about Arecibo, a telescope in Puerto Rico that broadcast a message to the M13 star system in 1974 as an attempt to connect with extraterrestrial life. The parrot's complaint is, well, why don't humans work as hard trying to communicate with us? We're right here. We're a non-human species capable of communicating with them. The storyteller recalls the African parrot, Alex, and his human researcher of 30 years, Irene Pepperberg, affirming that Alex not only knew the words for shape and color, but actually understood the concepts of shape and color. He wasn't just repeating words, he actually knew what they meant. Alex reportedly died relatively young, but the night before he died, he said to Pepperberg, "You be good. I love you." In addressing abundance, I'm talking about appreciation of life's gifts that may or may not include material plentifulness. We've all heard stories about the person who had little material possessions and yet looked at their life as full and abundant. And the converse, of course, the individual with wealth that could never be spent in a lifetime, but yet viewed their world with fear and anxiety. The latter bereft of what Wikipedia calls spiritual abundance, an appreciation of life in its fullness and joy, strength of mind and body, soul. This being my goal, possibly your goal, this appreciation for the fullness of life, I'd like to share 3 healthy responses to the experience of having received life and all that keeps us living. The first response, as noted in the opening reading, is to pay attention. Pay attention to that which is beautiful, that which is new, different, ordinary, taking notice of all that is, what I have, and where it comes from. Paying attention seems crucial for our survival, certainly the survival of parrots. But there are challenges to paying attention. Being so busy, habits of scheduling that seem to slide all our activity one into the other. Because I work in mental health, I'm aware as well of how trauma and stress can be an inhibitor of paying attention to the gifts of life. Individuals who have experienced trauma move fast. That is to say, their bodies have learned to adapt to a frightening event or events by being on alert. They have become in varying degrees wired to fight, flee, or freeze. It's hard to pay attention to life's abundance when one is literally on the run. Most of us, for various reasons, find it a struggle to regularly slow down enough to be present to our surroundings and to one another and pay attention in a meaningful way. Within all the world religions, elaborate ritual of prayer and celebration are dedicated to the second response I suggest, which is to be grateful. Robin Wall Kimmerer, in her book, Braiding Sweetgrass, reflects on the idea of gratitude, and she weaves the central prayer of the Onondaga Nation in her story of her children's school day, beginning and ending with prayers of gratitude for creation, being thankful for the earth and all its fruits, the waters and the winds and the herbs and the animals and the birds. Leave nothing out, she asserts. Now our minds are one. She suggests that this half hour of Thanksgiving address in its original form is difficult to recite without feeling wealthy. I was at an Episcopal High Mass last weekend in Chicago, 2 hours. My friend Bob Petit was celebrating 50 years of ordination as an Episcopal priest. Much of the celebration and its intricate pageantry with colorful vestments and incense paraded around the body of the church. Amazing chanting in Latin held within it not only the elaborate praises to God, but a gratitude for all that was given. After the service, we met in a beautiful garden outside the church to eat delicious food and catch up with friends and family. Blessings were given for the food and drink in abundance and for the dedicated work of Father Bob in his ministry as parish priest and educator of chaplains. Gratitude is good. In the Muslim faith, shukr is the concept of gratitude. The Quran itself is considered a call toward gratitude, a call to a more grateful disposition for all the gifts received from Allah. In the Muslim faith is a tradition of devotees who make praise and gratitude a central part of daily life. 5 times a day, and after every formal prayer, made the dua is said, "O Allah, help me remember you, be grateful to you, and give praise to you." There is a litany of all gifts given, received, as written down in the Quran. Consider the seeds you grow in the ground. Do you make them grow, or is it we who make them grow? The water, the rain, the firewood, the trees, the wood, where the trees and the wood where the wood comes from for the fire. So glorify the name of you, Lord. And now in return for the livelihood you've been given, how can you deny it? Gratitude is good. Honoring, is my third suggestion in responding to abundance. More than paying attention, maybe an extension or fulfillment of gratitude. Honoring holds within it a pledge or commitment to fulfill an obligation, our moral and physical response to this sense of abundance. I would include our UU principles and policies here, and especially our desire and work to establish equity. Honoring what we have received is about caring for the gifts and sharing them. These then are the 3 ways I've found to be healthy responses to what has been given in our abundance: paying attention, showing gratitude, honoring by giving, and working toward equity. In a paradoxical kind of way, I believe that we can be helped in our above response to abundance by actually doing less. In a recent podcast of Hidden Brain entitled Doing Less, Leidy Klotz, a mechanical engineer and a university professor, was asked to describe his work and studies as it pertains to removing or reducing or subtracting actions taken to help improve the projects he was involved in and personally to improve his own life. He gave various examples, noting that humans, when they want to improve upon something or some situation, they generally think in terms of adding, putting on addition, doing something more. He gave the example of making a bridge with his 3-year-old son Ezra out of Duplos, big Lego things. Noting that the bridge was off balance, they both set out in their own way of making the bridge line up with the 2 connecting towers. Leidy observed that his son took a piece away from one side in the bridge to make it even. Leidy himself had added a piece to one side to balance the bridge, and this got him thinking. So he did an informal test with his students with the same situation of an unsteady bridge, and every one of them added a piece to balance it out. He began to ponder other situations where subtraction might be just as effective or better in improving something. He referenced Anna Keitchlein, a female architect of the early 20th century, who invented the notched brick, hollowed out brick that was less heavy and expensive than early forms of brick, thereby saving space, material, and weight. It became easier to work with and certainly more cost-effective. Leidy also noted the Strider bike. You've seen those around. It's a simple design of a bicycle with the chain and the pedals and the gears removed, so children have to use their own pushing and propulsion to make it go. The simplicity of it actually makes it easier to learn to balance, leaving behind the need for training wheels or those piggyback things, seats that you see attached behind adult bikes. Leidy's research led him to experimentation being done at the University of Michigan, addressing how and why humans like to acquire things. It was found that people's pleasure center of the brain are stimulated and rewarded with essentially having more stuff. If you want to see a great video about having more stuff, a funny George Carlin video, you should Google that. It's great. It's easy to see how individuals can get stuck in the loop of acquiring and feeding a pleasure center that produces that behavior we call hoarding. Leidy gave an example of using his ideas in public policy in Pennsylvania, assisting legislators to subtract or reduce laws, particularly those that seem to be redundant. The idea was introduced that before a new law could be proposed, 2 old ones had to be removed. Somebody should research that a little more. Psychologically speaking, Leidy looks at what is gained by what is given up. In a sense, he's steering around loss aversion, reframing loss as additions for the human brain in need of that pleasure it's looking for. I mentioned trauma earlier. Subtracting is a principle that can work for the trauma victim as well. Giving up one's defenses or fleeing, fighting, or freezing can happen when one feels safe. Subtracting these for the possibility of a greater sense of well-being is a good and worthwhile work. And one doesn't need the extreme of wrestling with the issue of trauma to feel the benefit of subtraction. Just setting aside the unhealthy or limiting parts of one's behavior can have positive effects on one's life. Leidy looks to Marie Kondo, whose idea of tidying up has won her international fame. Marie helps people identify and only hold on to those things that spark joy, and subtracting that stuff that is cluttering one's personal space and holds no joy. Leidy gives several personal examples of subtracting things from his life in the form of scheduling and or attending less meetings, reducing the amount of editing of students' papers. Lao Tzu, he quotes, says that to attain knowledge, one must add things every day. To attain wisdom, one must subtract things every day. 3 skills I find helpful in negotiating the practice of subtracting are these. First of all, taking time to listen in the quiet. Think about the monk or anyone on retreat who eats their food and drinks in silence, or the Muslim observing Ramadan, fasting for 30 days so that they might better attain spiritual food. I have my own small example when I sit on a bench in the woods and I'm paying attention to the quiet and it's time to leave. This goes back to my wife, Wendy, who we'd go someplace fun or camping or whatever, and she would always, no, do we have to go? Can we just stay a little longer? So I kind of honor that, and I ask myself to sit for 2 more minutes of quiet, or in the light of looking at this as subtracting 2 minutes less of doing. My second skill that I recommend is that of letting go. Letting go has gained popular refrain as perhaps a piece of advice to a friend or from a counselor, but generally is looked at like a mental trick that one can perform. Just switch off something negative in one's thinking. I don't think it's that easy. I see it more as a process that has some activity in it. Finding a way to say goodbye to something unhealthy or outgrown of the past, as well as saying hello to the present, like Leidy's arranging or attending less meetings. My small example is a literal slowing down while driving. If I find myself hurrying to work, headed north on 131, and I'm in that position just behind somebody that's just a little bit slower than me, I'm tempted to speed up and pass them. But instead I choose to just hit my cruise button and slow down just a bit and follow them instead. It makes a difference inside me. It's a very small thing, but I'm then already beginning my work of helping others slow down something when I get to my job as a counselor. The third and final skill that I recommend is to embrace belief. Belief that there is something worthwhile in the empty spaces where we take more time, in the silent places. There is more to the reality of the universe than what I can hear, see, taste, or touch. It is all so much larger than myself. 2 little examples from the 1970s. You guys can relate to that. The first comes from lines from a popular poem and song of that day, Desiderata. You're a child of the universe, no less than the trees and the stars. You have a right to be here. Whether or not it is clear to you, the universe is unfolding as it should. I don't know if I have a right to be here, but I am here nonetheless and conscious of being here. When Carl Jung was interviewed toward the end of his life, after he had written Memories, Dreams, and Reflection, and at the end of a long documentary, Jung's explanation of the shadow and the collective unconscious, the animus and anima, and all those things that became popular and we just found at home with. The interviewer asked Jung if he believed in God, and Jung answered, I believe. In any event, it's what I am letting go of or listening to that helps me welcome messages from Alex, the parrot, my family, or you, my church. Be good. I love you. So things to think about. I think we're
So Don is going to be facilitating our discussion. If you have an order of service, the discussion questions are listed there. I will read them aloud, just in case. So if you are here in person, Don will be going around with the microphone. Please speak the truth as you understand it. And to avoid inhibiting the flow of discussion, do not comment on others' comments until everyone has had a chance to do initial sharing. If you are on Zoom, you will be assigned to a breakout room where you can have a discussion in your small group there. We'll be going about 10 to 15 minutes. So, on to you.
So the questions that I had proposed are two. How do I generally respond to the experience of what life's abundance brings me? And are there habits or material things that need subtracting from my life? And if I already know this, why is it so difficult for me to change that?
Please raise your hand if you'd like to speak, and Don will bring the microphone to you.
You can stand or you don't have to, but just tell us who you are. And
Hi, my name's Mary Herbeck. George and I have been coming for a couple of months now. The abundance that Don mentioned really struck me because George and I have been enjoying retirement for the last year and a half, and it's something that our parents didn't get to experience. They had illnesses and they all died before they could enjoy that. And I am just struck over and over again about having this gift of time that is not eaten up, that is leisurely and thoughtful and given to the things that we really enjoy. And coming back here to the Midwest and seeing our family more often is a real highlight of that.
thank you.
Pat Nelson, I guess I loved you're including gratitude, Don. The gift from the 12-step programs that I got, and they all emphasize that, to be grateful. And I don't think a day goes by that I don't stop and think of all that I have that I'm so grateful for. And I don't have a being or anything to be grateful for, but it doesn't matter. I just can be grateful.
Thanks, Pat.
Hi, my name is Sue Beadle Sism.
Hi, my name is Marty Newman. I have a very active practice of gratitude and certainly, try to keep that in mind. What I have noticed is that when something new first comes my way, or when there's a lot of new things happening, and I just moved here last August, and so there are a lot of new things in my life right now, I have noticed that I get used to it and take it for granted very quickly.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm David Isaacson, and reflecting on what Don has said about addition and subtraction, gives me pause. Last August 12th, I lost a beloved companion of nearly 12 years. And I'm in a significant process, I hope, of letting go. When I focus on what I lost, subtraction, I can get into a deep pit of despair. When I remember what Vi gave to me and shared with me, all the time we spent before her diagnosis with pancreatic cancer, and this rather slow process of she had of dying. I mean, the difference is wonderful. I have so much to be grateful for. I'm in a program that has a cliche, an attitude of gratitude, and I try to honor that gratitude. Share the abundance that Vi gave to me with others. It's a significant way of balancing, I think, addition and subtraction.
Thank you, David.
I'm Jan Crosby, and I think I've been retired back in Kalamazoo for 19 years right now. And I think that has changed my attitude toward me and mine and ours has become very different in these last 19 years. Without the press of time, which always was there when I was teaching, I now reflect more, and the bounty that I have, and I had, but wasn't really so much aware of, affects me every day. I'm almost constantly aware of how good it is, not just my own day-to-day life, which is very good, but all that is around me. And that is despite my semi-addiction to news. I think maybe I have to try harder to see what is so good in our planet, in my neighborhood, in my church, in my city, because I am very aware of the threats and concerns.
Thanks, Jim.
Hi, my name is Maggie Marr. I'm a part of the youth, and I've been at church pretty much all of my life. I think, like a lot of others, I find that change really scares me. And like someone else said, I think I take most good experiences for granted, but I'm grateful now that I have the knowledge and the chance to grow from that and to truly be grateful for the good in life. I think that a lot of times when life doesn't feel as good, it's really easy to get used to that bad feeling. So I'm hoping that I can see the good.
Thanks, Maggie.
Hi, I'm Brianna Wordsmith. This is my second time here. And what I've noticed about myself is that when I first come into some sort of abundance, there's this momentary or, initial joy, right? An absolute thrill of, a new home or a new job or whatever it is. So excited. And then after a while, it's not that it wears off, but I start to notice the little negative aspects of something. And so then the abundance feels a little bit like a burden until something comes along and reminds me how good I have it. But I feel like a pendulum kind of swinging between feeling gratitude and feeling like annoyance or like what I have isn't enough and I'm looking towards the next step or the next achievement, etc. And that's really hard to, I don't know that I'll ever resolve that with myself. Maybe I'll always kind of be focusing on the challenges, but I'm trying to focus more on gratitude as I get older.
Thanks, Brianna. Anybody else?
I'm Don Miller's son, Ben Miller. Grew up going to this church. I actually, I embraced Islam about 10 months ago, and so I haven't been coming here. But my dad, he very kindly asked for some insight from the Islamic tradition, and so I was really grateful that he included that in his sermon. One thing to add is that in the Islamic tradition, whenever something happens in life, whether we perceive it as good or bad, we're meant to say, Alhamdulillah, all praise due to God. And this practice is, it's that all things in life are a mercy in some way. That we are brought a mercy in one way or another, whether we understand it or not. Because the will of Allah is so much larger than us, than what we can understand. And so if something is difficult, if something hurts us, Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, he had some of the most difficult, challenging things in his life. I mean, he lost children that were infants, he lost so much in his life. He was raised an orphan. He had a very, very difficult life. And yet he established this faith that exploded and brought this disposition of gratitude for all that we're given, everything, all from this single beautiful source of oneness. And so even something that's so tragic, so painful, we can still say, Alhamdulillah, this might be an opportunity for me to learn patience. This might be an opportunity for me to grow my faith. This might be a breaking open of my heart so that I can be more open to this world, to have a more sincere disposition towards others and their pain, their suffering, and to come into contact with this oneness. So, Alhamdulillah.
Thank you, Ben. Well, I think that's pretty good. Alex the parrot said it. Be good. I love you. Oh, I don't know how that's working. Here's the master of the Zoom.
So the Zoom people, as far as I know, have been, no? They've been listening to us. All right. I have not seen any comments coming from them. I checked a few minutes ago. So I think that's going to wrap up our discussion. And now we're going to move on to our closing song. There is more love somewhere.
There is more love. There is more love somewhere. There is more love somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more love somewhere. There is more hope. There is more hope somewhere. There is more hope somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more hope somewhere. There is more peace. There is more peace somewhere. There is more peace somewhere. I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more peace somewhere. And lastly, there is more joy. There is more joy somewhere. There is more joy somewhere. And I'm gonna keep on till I find it. There is more joy somewhere.
Our closing words come from Andrew Pakula. As you prepare to leave this sacred space, pack away a piece of this church in your heart. Wrap it carefully like a precious gem. Carry it with you through the joys and sorrows of your days. Let its gentle glow strengthen you, warm you, remind you of all that is good and true, until you gather here again in this place of love. Thank you all for coming. Go in peace.